This is PC747 bringing you this week's topics involving tech. Before I get started talking about these topics, first I want to talk about Walmart Pay. Now, I've been a fan of Android Pay for a while. I've been utilizing it as my go-to pay app when it comes to NFC payments. Now, you can only use that if your merchant or your store you go to actually support it. But a lot more stores are starting to support it now. And, whether it be Android or Apple Pay, which use the same system, I find it, it's pretty smooth. Now, as far as overall pay apps, Samsung, they have in the book. They are overall the best. And the reason for that is because they're backwards compatible. Unlike Android Pay, Samsung Pay can utilize systems that don't have NFC payment. So if you go to a store, they don't have the setup for NFC payment, you can still whip out your Samsung phone with Samsung Pay and still utilize it where you use your standard credit card. And this is something that I find pretty cool. And I've used it when I had a Samsung phone on numerous occasions. Now, when I go to Walmart, which I go every now and then to pick up some stuff, one day I was going in there, the door greeter actually was, telling me, hey, you ought to download the Walmart app. If you would download the Walmart app, you can get some points, and points to end up saving you money in the long run. Now, I pretty much started to brush him off, but he insisted on me downloading and looking into it. So I downloaded and even, at his suggestion, tried the Walmart Pay app. Now, the first time I tried it, I ran into a little issues where it just wasn't scanning correctly. So I was like, all right, I was ready to kind of count it as a loss. But the second time I tried it, actually, went pretty smooth. Now, I'm going to have to continue to play around with it as well as study to kind of see, how are they exchanging your information and if it's secure. The one thing that a lot of people are concerned about now, that a lot of these places like Best Buy and other merchants are having their data breached. No one wanted to utilize a system where they are concerned that, the information would get out there into the dark web. So, give me a couple weeks to continue on playing with this, and I'll have a full report on that. But let's get started on my first topic, and that's dealing with Virgin Galactic. I've been very interested in the aerospace war that's been going on between SpaceX and Virgin Galactic, as well as a couple other companies out there. Ever since President Obama a couple years ago decided to cut funding for NASA and open up to the private industry, there's been this fight to try to see who can make use of trying to get out there and actually not only expand the technology, but see who can capitalize on it the best. Now, SpaceX and Virgin Galactic are actually, even though they're doing similar things, but they actually have different goals, per se. Virgin is more trying to become the space liner. They want to pretty much look at trying to take people, take them into space, and bring them back. Pretty much like an airliner. That's their overall goal. Where SpaceX is looking at trying to utilize reusable rockets that companies can either buy or use from them. And these reusable rockets will allow them to move equipment back and forth from the space station, as well as take satellites into orbit. Now, SpaceX have been having a lot of success as of late, and it seems like every time you turn on the news, SpaceX is making headlines. Virgin Galactic, on the other hand, well, it's like, where have you been? And a couple years ago, they actually had an accident that really set them back. Their pilot and co-pilot ended up, the pilot was killed, the co-pilot was badly injured. And it was a result of something that went wrong in the systems, and they've been working hard to fix it ever since. On April 5th this year, Virgin Galactic finally got one on board. They launched a successful test flight, reached supersonic speeds of Mach 1.8, and yes, now they're one step closer to reaching their goal, and that's, like I said, to finally have a space liner that will take people in and out of orbit. So congratulations to Virgin Galactic, and yeah, I look forward to continue reading about them, and hopefully we actually get to the point where we can buy tickets to go to space. On to my next topic, and that's Apple moving on from Intel. So Intel, look, we all know who Intel is. You know, they're pretty much, you see that sticker if you have a PC, and some of the older Macs, they had that little sticker on the bottom right of your computer that says Intel inside. And if you have been around in the late 90s, early 2000s, you remember hearing the Intel commercials and the jingle that went with it. Now, we are starting to get to a point where Intel is just not evolving with the tech like they really need to. They're not able to perform on the mobile side like some of the other chips, like a Qualcomm, MediaTek, and really what Apple is able to do. And ever since Apple pretty much took full control of their phone chips from Samsung and brought it in-house, they have continued to improve on it to the point where it's now starting to outperform some PCs. And Apple is like, well, if we're able to make chips that is outperforming our computers because of the processing power of Intel, why not just go ahead and continue making our own chips for our computer? And that's what they're planning on doing. By 2020, Apple will be making chips for not only their phones, but for their iPads, and the MacBook Pros, and for their Mac computers. Now, as far as Intel, this is not something they're going to really need to panic about. Yes, losing Apple is a blow, but they still have all the PC makers out there that's going to still utilize their tech. What they will need to do, though, is look at trying to get their tech to where they're evolving, because we're starting to go more and more towards mobile computing. And if you look at where we at with phones now, our phones are performing very well, and in many occasions performing better than a lot of our computers out there. You know, it's providing better battery life, able to charge faster. Standby time is by far better in some occasions. And, well, if you look at a lot of the apps that we're starting to see now, they're doing what many of the programs on our computer was doing. And eventually, as more and more developers start taking some of these computer programs and bring it to the Apple market and to the Google Play Store, it's going to put some of your PC makers in the bind, because now they're going to have to evolve. So if Intel don't start finding a way to get into the mobile and try to find chips that can perform well and handle it, they're going to be in a situation where they're going to end up getting lapped by other companies. You know, where Intel was known by their name, eventually going to get to the point where they will only be known by name only. And as we continue to see more and more Chromebooks and iPads become a mainstay for a lot of consumers, it's going to be a matter of time before we start seeing more people gravitate away from Intel-based computers and more towards computers that can handle the load that some of our phones and stuff are doing. Now, it's not going to happen anytime soon, because we're going to always still utilize computers for editing and more intensive stuff that, quite frankly, the iPads and Chromebooks can do. But this is going to be something I believe Intel overall is going to have to really contemplate figuring out how they're going to be able to evolve from here. Russia's delivery drone literally hit a wall. So Russia, as well as a lot of other companies out there and countries, have been really trying to get into the drone industry and use the delivery side of it. And this past week, the Russia's parcel service was ready to christen their brand new delivery drone that was supposed to deliver a package Unfortunately, it literally ran into a wall, and there went $20,000. Now, the cause of the accident was believed to be Wi-Fi interference. Thankfully, nobody was hurt, but that is not a good way to start off testing. To literally have politicians out there popping champagne and not even able to get a sip in before their $20,000 drone end up hitting the wall and then into the ground. Now, we could sit there and laugh at this right now because, really you would think that, all right, look, I can fly my drone longer than, 3 seconds. So I'm trying to figure out why, these guys can't seem to get this thing to go longer than that. But this do bring up a good thing that needs to be explored, because with businesses being in a rush to help and get this technology out there so that we can utilize it to deliver packages to people, pieces to someone, or whatever we want to use it for, we have to look into this, because where they were actually testing this out in Russia was actually not that congested of an area. And as far as here in the States, we're actually wanting to utilize this in an area like New York or LA, because those are going to be areas that make use of that first. But if that drone went down to Wi-Fi interference, what's going to happen when you're dealing with the issues in some of your larger cities, such as, again, we'll have your Wi-Fi interference, you're going to have your cellular there, all your radios is going down there as far as radio waves, and then, whatever atmospheric conditions that are there. And then, so happen in America, if you fly a drone or a company like Amazon or Papa John's, Pizza Hut, whoever it is, end up flying a drone and it loses control, and as a result, landing on someone's car or hitting someone, well, that's going to be a lawsuit against that company. And regardless whether the person was really injured or barely nicked, depending on who ended up getting injured or harmed by it, it may end up becoming a bigger ordeal than what really happened. Now, I am really intrigued by us getting this going, because there's just so much we can actually do with this technology. I'm not so much concerned about us rushing for this technology just so that someone can get a pair of headphones in a matter of minutes versus waiting a couple of days, or because someone wants a video game now, or whatever it is, because, they don't quite feel like getting in the car and driving down to Best Buy or the local store, and they want it to be brought to them. Where I see this technology working well is in fields such as medical. Companies like CVS or Walgreens. If you have a child who is having an asthma issue and they need their medicine, to be able to throw the medicine on a drone and rush it out to them so that they can get relief immediately. As well as EMS being able to utilize it in a crash situation where they need blood to save a victim's life, and because of the traffic, we can't get what we need there, and we can't quite get a helicopter to land in that particular location. So to be able to utilize a drone to get vital equipment and to our emergency personnel to help out with an emergency situation is why I hope we can help and really figure this out for that, as well as for those who are elderly and they need their medicine, but they can't quite get out without utilizing a mobile service, unless someone can take them to the pharmacy or where they need to go, they're pretty much stuck in the house. So in a situation where you may have some who may not be able to get help there, well, to be able to have a doctor or pharmacist be able to get them their prescriptions without them having to get out, it's another good opportunity for this technology. I'm all for this getting there, but the reality is that these companies are not just looking at the medical side. They also are looking at the side that's going to make them money. And there are people who are willing to pay extra $5 to $10 to have their pizza delivered to them in a drone, especially if the the pizza store is pretty much 5 minutes away. But they can avoid going through traffic and and missing the game, and they can sit there and still have their pizza brought to them. Yeah, they're okay with spending that type of money. And there are a lot of companies that are lined up to take advantage of the opportunity there. But this is something that, as we look at what Russia dealt with, we're going to have to overcome. We're going to have to figure this out before we can bring drone delivery into a reality. My last topic for this week is dealing with fitness watches. Now, last week I was actually looking at whether I should get a Fitbit or a Wear OS watch. Well, Wear OS is now Android Wear for those who are not aware of that. And I was thinking about that because I wanted a way to, calculate my heart rate. So I actually asked a question to a couple people and say, which watch is better? Would you recommend a Fitbit or would you recommend Android Wear? Or even Apple Watch. So I was sitting there doing some research and I came upon a couple of topics out there that actually talked about this. And what I ended up finding out is that, well, whether you use Fitbit, Android Wear, or even Apple Watch, they're not as accurate as you think they are. Not only are they not as accurate with monitoring your heart rate, but also with your step count. Now, it's gotten better over the years, but if you're going to utilize this to help you track exactly how many calories you burn, it's going to be off. In fact, they said on average, it's on about 80% off. But it's like 80% accurate. So you may think you're working very, very hard, but you may not be working as hard as you think you are. Now, for the average consumer, it works well for motivation, but it's not something that you can utilize to help plug in as far as numbers to calculate how many calories you can eat a day. In other words, you're trying to think, did I work hard enough to be able to eat this donut today or eat this today? And if you're utilizing your smartwatch for that, you're looking to possibly set yourself up for failure. Look, I'm not telling you not to get rid of your smartwatch if you have one, or I'm telling you to avoid buying one. What I'm telling you is that the reality is you cannot rely on that as an accurate tool. In fact, they have been met with so much scrutiny that there have been class action lawsuits against these companies, Fitbit and even Apple, complaining that their heart rate monitor is not as accurate as they claim it to be. And a lot of the companies are coming out and saying that, well, we know that. Even though it's being advertised as that, the technology is not quite there yet. To be able to, if you look at how they are monitoring your heart rate, they're using lasers that are pretty much bouncing off your skin. They're not going to get that accurate of a heart rate from that technology, not quite yet. Now, the fact that we are as accurate as we are now is amazing. And I think we eventually will get to the point where you can utilize your phone and your watch to keep up with your health. And we're going to continue to evolve with that the more and more we play with it. But we still have a ways to go. And so for those of you out there that are looking to change as far as physical fitness, keep in mind that your watch is not going to be what's going to help you there. It's not going to be what's going to help you meet your goals. You're going to have to make your lifestyle change. You're going to have to change the way you eat. You're going to back off the sugary drinks, the sodas, loading up the coffee with sugar in the morning. You're going to have to exercise regularly. And you're going to have to make lifestyle changes. It's okay to have that watch as a motivational tool. And that's where it needs to be. But anything other than that, and you're setting yourself up for failure. So for me, right now, I think I'm going to go ahead and pass on this smartwatch. I finally realized what it is. Just a piece of jewelry that you wear on your arm. That's it. As far as it being a fitness tool, well, if I needed something to motivate me, maybe. But I'm already motivated enough, and I don't really need a watch to motivate me. But for those that do, I'm not bashing. Hey, grab it. If it's helping you get up in the morning and get those extra steps in, if it's pushing you to make better lifestyle choices and better changes as far as your daily activity, hey, get it. Because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. But just make sure you understand that that smartwatch may not be giving you the exact amount of information when it comes to how well you're performing that day. And really, the best way to get that information is to listen to your body. Did you get a good training? Did you leave the gym feeling like you gave your best effort? If not, well, next time you go to the gym, try to do better. This is PC747. Thank you for joining me on another Nexup.